Hello, I'm Richard Malloy. I'm happy to be part of the education law class here, and I'm putting obviously the first video together for the module. My background, very briefly, I am presently an instructor at Gateway Technical College. I have served as the department chair as well as lead instructor and done some of the curriculum work for our adult high school program in the pre-college division. I formerly have 5 years teaching middle school and high school English in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area prior to earning a master's in post-secondary ed student affairs from the University of Northern Iowa. I added to that a few years of administration at the Spoon River College in Illinois. I was the director of athletics, student life, and auxiliary services. Was involved with obviously the programming, compliance to Title IX, established fundraising laws and policies. I should say policies that follow the laws. I was also the director of high school relations for a number of years here at Gateway Technical College, working with K-12 districts. The students that we have here in our program have historically been deemed at risk legally with contracts in the 118-115 state law with our Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, our Board of Education, if you will. That makes them legally 1 year behind their graduating class to graduate and or 2 years behind in reading and math proficiency. My students would be in that first group. And our diploma was raised by that Department of Public Instruction to a standard 23 high school credits. It had been 17.5 up to that point, and it had been a very unique program within the 16 technical colleges in the state up to that point. As for our college, we are located in the southeast corner of the state of Wisconsin in the Chicago-Milwaukee corridor. We're a public institution. We offer 69 programs with associate degrees and technical diplomas. We're accredited by the Higher Learning Commission. The eastern part of our district is where the I-94 corridor between Milwaukee and Chicago cuts in, if you will, and our population centers are in the east, Racine and Kenosha, providing two large unified school districts. Those districts, more than our other partners, reflect the challenges of urban education. The graduation rates are not what the districts would aspire to. The interests of the low income population. Racine has the highest unemployment in the state for over 2 decades continually. We're hoping to change that with some influx of employers here. The western part of our district reflects a more rural part of Wisconsin, traveling into Walworth County, which would make you about 45 minutes from Madison. We are between Milwaukee and Chicago here in the east. We are tied very much to county alternative high schools out there. Again, those contracted students. And the western part of our district also enjoys a large and emerging Latino population as well. Sort of tied to immigration issues at times legally. I would also say that we're tied to northern Illinois communities kind of moving up into our state. Gateway's application of laws, our funding is tied heavily into federal funds involved with the financial aid issues. We have a very good record in terms of our low default rates. Our articulation agreements with other colleges and universities. We're also tied heavily to workforce development efforts at the state and our partners in the community and the employers. Most notably at the moment, Foxconn is setting up a world headquarters, or at least a North American headquarters, here in our community, essentially right next to our STEM center. We're heavily involved with dual credit and the laws that allow us to articulate high school students into our programs to receive college credit. The Gateway Promise works again with our foundation and employers to provide free tuition to recent graduates. Our youth apprenticeship programs are heavily tied into workforce funding. We have a vice president of government and community relations, who not only works locally in our local governments and school boards, but spends a considerable amount of time in Madison with our state level legislators, as well as trips to Washington, D.C. on behalf of the college and as the technical college representatives of our state, probably in teams. Our president is oftentimes there. Our efforts to emphasize student safety, our ALICE programs, our access to Title IX and to disability support, our Zero Tolerance Violence Against Women Act and sexual harassment, access to services for veterans, access to the LGBT programming are all put very publicly, and they're in our syllabus, and they're present everywhere to allow students to connect. And again, some of that is tied into our accreditation and to the federal efforts. I think perhaps just a little bit more than K-12 systems might. For my own legal blind spots, if you will, to cover that issue, I'm interested in marrying the laws from the K-12 system to the technical college system, where I have one foot in a system that teaches adults, and I have to be mindful of another system as well that pertains to those students who are under 18 and members of school districts, who's accessible and eligible to be in a class with minors, and how do we legally offer that as a public institution. I'm interested in the legal conflicts that I think have existed. I don't see them on a daily basis, but I may find myself off campus working with instructors of a school district under agreements made by an administration. The feelings may not be completely in sync. Legal conflicts, grievances look a little bit different. I'd like to be a partner there. I'd like to know more about the laws. Some of those laws deal with the memorandums of understanding, and particularly when I talk to our other technical colleges in the state, the logistics and litigious nature of our agreements are sometimes difficult. And I'd like to keep one step ahead of the changing state laws and the regulations from the state within our Department of Public Instruction and also other regulations. As for my own plan, I would like to tie what I learn, what I'm able to get from a class of this, a course of this sort, to our own efforts with strategic enrollment management. Again, I think we have to be good partners with our community, with our school districts, also our employers. I'd like to explore that question of who's given access to online delivery. We have, in our particular state, some fairly rigid rules on districts and residency. Does that exist in an online offering, which we're increasingly heading towards, a world where our classes are online? Ultimately, how do we offer services that partner with virtual high school learners as opposed to competing against them? Are we competing with them for state funding? I think we have to strive to be partners and to make a concerted effort to work seamlessly and provide our students with the best learning opportunities. I'm excited about this class. I'm excited about what it offers, and I look forward to being part of the team.